What is up, Force fam? Star Wars Dad back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Galactic Championships, just kind of my thoughts on the tournament and some of the interesting decks that came out from this tournament. Before we get into today's video, please make sure to check out my Patreon if you want to get more exclusive content from me. So that's like deck building, helping you with your decks, giveaways, a lot of deck lists, new deck lists almost every day. Make sure to sign up for the 6,000 subscriber giveaway, where I'll be giving away 3 hyperspace foil Darth Vaders to 3 lucky winners. So please make sure to like and subscribe, as it really does help the channel to grow. In the comments for today's video, let me know what you thought were some really interesting decks from this past weekend and what your favorite deck to watch be piloted was. I'll be giving away a Prestige foil the Sun, which I think is a really cool card, which is a card that was featured in this championship winning list from this Mother Talzin red deck from the Galactic Championships. So to get into today's video, I wanted to talk about some of the decks that made the top 8, but I also wanted to talk about some decks that I thought were really interesting, including one in particular from the top 8, as I'm sure many of you are aware of if you were watching all weekend. But first, let's get into these Mother Talzin lists. I got a couple I wanted to talk about. Mother Talzin is one of my top favorite decks to play right now. It's between this and Kylo ECL for me. I just really love what this deck is able to do. Force Lightning and Force Throw were just amazing this past weekend. We saw Force Lightning just, act as that Rival's Fall to take out leaders, to take out big threats with the cheap Force units on board. We saw Force Throw just do a ton of work as expected. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think there were 75% of the top 8 were playing Force Throw, I think. What I liked about this list, and there was several lists that were very similar to this, so you could tell the team was playing a very similar list. But I really liked the combination of Hotshot Blaster, Arm to the Teeth, and the Fallen Lightsaber as just different ways to push damage in combination with the Sun, which occasionally became relevant. There was one game in particular it became very relevant. I think that was against the Darth Vader yellow matchup in the top 8, if I'm not mistaken. But just the player, first of all, Philippe, was just amazing. I loved watching him play. He was such a good player, and I would encourage all you guys to just kind of watch different matchups from the past weekend. And especially some of these, top players, like their lines of play, their thinking, the types of things that they did when they passed, when they claimed the initiative, all that kind of stuff. It just helps you become a better player. And kind of, when you're sitting there watching it and saying what you think you should do, and then they do something different, helps you to become better, right? Because maybe you were wrong in that instance. But definitely just watch those players play like that. It's always going to make you play better to watch the best play the game. But I love that this list incorporated Force Throw and Jedi in Hiding. No pillage at all. So he was using a little bit of hand disruption. He wanted to put more about pushing damage to the base, which makes sense. And I really like the smuggle component of Arm to the Teeth and the Hotshot Blaster. Even at an aspect for Hotshot Blaster at 5, it came in handy for sure. He was able to really push damage quickly in the matchups that he needed to. And then the other matchups, he was able to be more methodical and just kind of take his time. But those matchups where he needed to push damage, those smuggle cards really made a big difference. The Krennic was the other big card that I really liked from this list. So being able to play out a lot of your win defeated cards for a resource cheaper makes a big difference on that turn 2 play. So you can put out two 2-drops, and that really helps you to push pressure on the board, especially against decks that maybe have good 1-for-1 answers. And it allows you to go wide and just make it a lot more difficult to deal with all of your threats. So, Krennic can get Karis out for 1. It can get Night Sister out for 1. Acolyte of the Beyond out for 1. Just all those cards. And even Jedi in Hiding out for 2. So that's really cool too. So there's just a lot of little things that Krennic did. And it just makes so much sense in here. And I thought that was a great inclusion. And clearly it made a big difference in the results. The other one was Ki-Adi-Mundi. Both of the Ki-Adi-Mundis. Now that was also just incredible deck building, because the Ki-Adi-Mundi on 5 is definitely a card I've considered when playing this deck, because it comes out on the same turn as Talzin, so you're likely to get that coordinate online right away if you already have a unit or 2 on board. which is why it's in the main board. And I definitely, on top of that, it has great synergy with the Sun and Hotshot Blaster, where it becomes a 7-powered unit, so it can really put pressure earlier, because it's only 5 resources, and then gives you that card advantage. Like, it's a constant problem that if your opponent doesn't deal with, you're just getting a lot of card advantage in a deck that, that's one of this deck's weaknesses. So he's only playing the 2 Night Sister because of that Ki-Adi-Mundi, and then he has the 2 Heroic Ki-Adi-Mundi in the sideboard as another way to, like, against more mid-range and control style matchups, to just come in for 6 resources and draw 2 cards. So just an incredible build. Really liked what this deck did. I watched him play 2 or 3 different matchups throughout the weekend. The Devastator's obviously to kind of close things out. The Sun is another way to close things out. The Purge Trooper was cool too. I liked that as a way to immediately do damage to a force unit when it's played, and it's a 4/2, so it's like a decent threat to remove big things as well as put pressure on your opponent, which is also great to have a 4-powered unit on your second turn. So again, just a really incredible list. Loved this list. In the sideboard, he's got the 3 Syndola for ramp. He's bringing in Devastators, Crate Dragons for more mid-range control matchups. And the Planetary Bombardment is a nice one-of for the 3 Devastators when you are bringing those in. So just overall, just an amazing list. Loved watching him play. And I just, I learned a lot from just watching him play and some of these other great players that were playing in this tournament. Here's another one. This list finished 22nd. Very similar list. The biggest difference, I think, with this one was just more streamlined. The 3 Night Sisters, no Ki-Adi-Mundi. I liked the addition of the Long Pike as another smuggle component, not playing the Hotshot Blaster or the Arm to the Teeth, and then playing the 3rd copy of Jedi in Hiding. I also really liked that they were just playing 3 Ruthless Raider, 3 Devastator, just as a way to close the game out. And the 2 Dooku were really nice too. It's just another piece of unit removal on curve. So this is just a very consistent list, very streamlined. Really liked this one as well. And just playing the 3 Fallen Lightsabers for Talzin and other units to put pressure on your opponent. 3 Crate Dragon, the couple Syndola, a couple Fang Fighter, and the 3 Bombing Run for like aggro opponents. Just another great list. I think either one of these lists is a great starting point if you're interested in playing Talzin. This one, again, is more about pushing to close the game out quicker. This one's more about unit removal, using your units to remove things. Like, just everything on that bottom row except for like Long Pike is a form of unit removal in some way, shape, or form. So both of these are just great lists and both great players. All right, here is the kind of the surprise deck of the weekend was this new Quinlan Tarkintown list. A lot of players were playing this. Ian Klein got 2nd place. It was so close to winning. It was such a great matchup. He played this deck incredibly all weekend. I watched a few of his matchups as well. Just a great player. So shout out to him as well. What I loved about this list was just the creativity that this team put together. I loved the use of Witch of the Mist in so many different ways in here. It was kind of like a toolbox card. Like, you use it early on to get Force Lightning and Force Throw online, but you also use it to, like, with Constructed Lightsaber as a sentinel. He did that several games to really slow things down as he got closer and closer to the Kylo turn. I loved Miggs Mayfield in here. Was like such an MVP watching him use that card in turn 1, discarding a card with Kylo's ability, then doing 2 damage to a unit, and then using Tarkintown. Just such great synergy. Such a great card in here. The Heroic Resolve to get Anakin's online was great, of course, as the hero card for the deck. Really loved the Admiral Mahdi, just to be able to attack in twice with Kylo. Love that this card was being used in one of the finalist decks, and just love to see decks that use Admiral Mahdi, and the creativity of this deck was so cool. The Snapshot Reflex to be able to attack in right away for 3 resources when Kylo flips. I loved the Sith Hilocron as a way to deal damage to the Admiral Mahdi on your flip and only pay 1 resource for this to get +1/+1. And then kill Mahdi and be able to activate Kylo again. Like, that was such those 3 cards right there, just so cool. This deck is so cool. I love that they were using the Karis as well, just as a solid 2/4 on turn 1. Secret of Sage, of course, just a great unit with a shield. All those units, of course, Karis, Secret of Sage, and Witch of the Mist all get Force Throw and Force Lightning online. A couple of Battle Fury, of course, is another sweet card. Also has great synergy with MIGs as a way to discard a card from your hand and do 2 more damage with MIGs or 2 damage to a unit. 3 power, of course, the 2 constructed lightsaber just was a great way to finish the game with Kylo, to get in, like, especially a couple times he had like 2 of them on Kylo to swing in for like plus 8 damage with those. So swinging in for 13 if he just had those alone. But a lot of times he was swinging in for like, I think one time I saw him swinging for 19. Like, just such a fun deck. Couple Fallen Lightsaber. The Perilous Position was nice too, as an upgrade that he could discard if he didn't need it, or use it as a way to slow people down. The 3 Long Pike was cool as a way to just kind of play a card from his resources and not necessarily have to play a card from his hand in some instances. I love that he was playing the 2 Pillage. I really thought Pillage was in a great spot right now, and just felt like the combination of Force Throw and Pillage was such a great combo. And then the 3 Anakin, of course, is like his just a way to slow things down, to remove 2 units, to remove 1 big unit. Just a great deck. Loved watching this deck being played. The 2 Grenade Strike in the sideboard, I would imagine for like decks that have a lot of cheaper units, or like decks that go in space. Couple Fang Fighter for heavy upgrade decks. The Sandola to ramp. A 3rd copy of Pillage for more mid-range and control. The Rival's Fall, coming in against leaders, that can be a big threat. As well as like Kylo Ren's. And a couple Ruthless Raider as another way to deal with space, and just kind of another form of unit removal. So just this deck was just so creative. It was so much fun to watch this deck. I obviously, like I said, I've been playing Kylo ECL a lot, and I love playing that. So this was just another way to play Kylo. And it was just really cool to see. And 2 of these made the top 8. This was the one that made the finals. And this is the one by David Hoyland, who made top 8. Just wanted to shout them both out, because just such great creativity with the deck building, and just an amazing deck. So I definitely think like you're going to see a lot of Parliamentarian from Woo's list that was in the sideboard because of these Kylo decks. And I don't just think the Tarkintown is going to be played. I think we're going to see more of the ECL. We're going to see more Datavault potentially, but Tarkintown was just such a sweet way to play this, and especially the combination of Admiral Mahdi with the Sith Hillicron. That was just so cool when he was able to pull that off. All right, here was Woo's list. Shout out to Woo. Just another great performance, making the top 4. He's definitely just one of the best players in the world. Just awesome to watch him play as well. Just tough matchup against this Tarkintown deck for Woo's deck. I mean, he had text for it. He had the Bamboozle and the Aggravated Parliamentarian, but you know, it's a tough deck to beat. Like, Kylo had good answers for a lot of the early units, and then just has that big Kylo flip turn. And you know, if you don't have the right answers at the right time with the Bamboozle or the Parliamentarian before Kylo flips, it's just a hard matchup to beat, on top of the other units that he's using with the upgrades and things like that. But just a strong Quinlan player for a long time as well. And just a pretty standard list here. I think the addition of Quinlan, the Depa Baloba, I saw Woo make some really cool plays with that card as well. But again, just an incredible job by Woo. A couple bombing around the sideboard for those more aggressive opponents in space heavy decks, using the red 5 to clean things up that have been damaged. And again, shout out to Woo. Such a great job. This was another. So now we're kind of getting into the surprise decks besides the Kylo Tarkintown. So this Han Never Tell Me the Odds leader is not as a leader that most people have kind of written off. And I actually had just talked to a Patreon member about this deck a few days ago, I think right before the tournament. It was a little different list that I was just trying to help work on with that person. And this is obviously the perfected, refined list. This player made top 8. It's just such a great leader. It was great to see this off-the-wall leader make top 8. Just be really putting the pressure with Han's ability to +1 things, going extremely wide in space, and just like pushing all the damage that you can. I mean, obviously Han's flip on the pilot is great as well. Playing a bunch of odd cards in here, 1s and 3s, and a few 5s to just make sure you synergize off that as much as possible. Playing 3 Boshek to just draw both the cards that you discard most of the time. Just a very well-built deck. So this is another fun one, I think. I mean, even when I was playtesting the Patreon members deck that we were working on, it was a lot of fun, and I was really surprised at how good it did, because I haven't really messed around with this Han Solo myself. And the jam communications as a way to kind of disrupt your opponent's big events in their hands, continue to put the pressure on and stop them in their tracks before they can slow you down enough. Swoop downs to attack with a space unit against Saboteur and be able to attack ground units to get +2, and the defender gets -2. So a great way to remove big threats on the ground with some of your like 3 and 4 power space units to be able to hit for like 5, especially if you have like an upgrade on them. So like a Falcon with an upgrade, especially the newer Millennium Falcon, you add a Han Solo to that, it makes it a 6 power. And then if you use Swoop Down, you're hitting 8 power on the ground. That's really strong. So just an awesome deck. And then using Tarkintown, Daring Raids, things like that to be able to prevent your opponent from keeping pace with you, to be able to take their unit out, use, play like a Daring Raid plus a 1-drop space unit on turn 1 is a great play. A few ground units with the Han Solo, Plo Koon, and Poe Dameron. Usually using the Han Solo as a pilot, but I imagine sometimes you're using it for its ambush. And then Plo Koon obviously gets activated because you're going so wide in this deck, so you're going to usually ambush in for 6 damage. So a great way to remove leaders or big threats on the ground. A couple Poe Dameron as a way to just kind of deal with upgrades and push damage. So just a really well-built deck. Here was a Han Solo Blue deck that made top 8, but surprisingly enough, with all the Hans that were played, no one made. This player did make top 8. I think there was two Han2 Blues in top 8, but they I believe they both lost and did not make top 4. But I really liked this list. You could just tell, again, this is a very refined list. I love the 3 Owen Lars as a way to search for Force unit as well as Restore 2. The 3 Chirrut, of course, the 3 Grogu as a great turn 1 play. The Daughter was a nice inclusion as a way to, when damage is dealt with your base, you can use the Force and gain 2 life. So just another way to kind of stabilize your life total. 1 copy of Force is with me as a way to push damage. The 3 Mace and the 1 Anakin, which makes a lot of sense. And then 1 Obi in the main, 1 in the side to kind of protect your ground units. 1 copy of Rival's Fall in the main, 1 in the side. The 3 Fell the Dragon for big threats. And then you have like your unit removal again with 3 Luke, the Chewbacca, and then to close the game out with your 3 Crate Dragons. So just a great list. 3 Bombing Run on the side again for aggro. Saw Bombing Run everywhere in the sideboards for a lot of players, which makes a ton of sense. And it's good to see Bombing Run finally get some play too. Like that was another card that just did not see a lot of play until recently. But I just thought I would mention this list because I think, again, Han 2 had a big target on its back. Everybody was prepared for this deck, as they should have been, because it was, the most played deck in the tournament. But it shows that, I don't necessarily think anything needs to be banned. I think Force Throw was definitely well represented in a good majority of the decks that were played this past weekend. But I don't know. I don't think it's ban worthy. I don't think Han's ban worthy either, and I've been saying that for a while. I think judging by how this past weekend went, like you could see how diverse things were. I mean, there's going to be a few decks that stand out. We knew Talzin was going to stand out. We knew Han was going to stand out. We knew that the new Kylo had a potential to stand out for sure. But I don't think, that Force Throw needs to be banned. I think it's a strong card, but I mean, a lot of players are playing it. When you know it's coming and you're playing it too, there's ways to play around it. There's ways to maximize it. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's okay. And that's the thing. Like you saw in a lot of these matchups from this past weekend, players were targeting the Force units to make sure that Force Throw and especially Force Lightning, which was one of the big MVPs of this weekend, wasn't online. So then it loses that ability. So like there's ways to deal with it. It'd be one thing if it did all that by itself without needing the Force unit on board, but it needs that Force unit on board. So if your opponent continues to take your Force units off the board, it loses power. So I think it's, oddly, I think it's a fairly balanced card. I don't think it's overpowered. I think people are going to get sick of it, but that's just kind of the nature of a game, right? It's only going to be here till March. So I don't think it's going to get banned. That's just my personal opinion, but maybe maybe I'm wrong, and definitely let me know what you think in the comments on that one, because I'm sure a lot of people have opinions about it after this weekend. All right, now we're getting to the really interesting list. This was a 18th place Iden Datavault. We haven't seen very many Iden decks at all lately, but I really liked this one. I've always liked Iden since this game came out. This list in particular, I really liked just a bunch of removal. This is more of a control style build for sure. Just a bunch of removal on those top 3 rows. And then you're getting to just bombs after that. You're dropping Reinforcement Walkers, Snokes, Avengers, Devastators, and Annihilators. This is such a fun way to play Iden, because you're like maximizing Iden's ability, just playing removal. And if you're a control player, like this is a deck you should definitely try out. Like this player was very close to making the top 8, and really just love that they played this style of deck. And I love that they brought Iden back into the fold and just using a bunch of removal. And then I love playing decks like this when you're playing control, where you're playing just a bunch of bombs. And it's like, once you get to the bombs, you most likely got the game, right? Like, what are they going to do when Snoke's on board and you play an Avenger, or you play a Devastator? It's just too much. And I love the couple of timelies to be able to do crazy things later in the game. Gaining Subtle Life, of course, with Iden, and then the 3 Vigilance in the main, and then 3 Top Target in the side for more aggressive opponents. This is definitely one of the ones I'm going to be trying out. I have not played too much control lately, as I've been playing a lot of the new Force decks. So this is one of the first decks that I'll be playing as far as a control deck. But I really liked this list. Playing 3 Super Laser Blast, 2 Nebula Ignition, so 5 board wipes later in the game until they can get to those place where they can play Snoke or Avenger or Devastator or whatever makes sense based on the game. So great job. 18th place by Mr. 30th place, Gar Saxon ECL. This is a deck I've talked about recently. Just felt like it was in a good spot with all the Han2 Blue, and this player did really, really well, got to 30th place. I like the addition of the Owen Lars to find Force units, with their playing Secret of Sage, Anakin, Darth Vader, and Darth Maul. So I guess they're using the Owen Lars to kind of find their closers, and the unit removal with Anakin. Interesting list for sure. Like the Grievous, that makes sense. The Knight of the Ren was interesting. I guess just so they didn't have too many Grievouses in their hands. Like they want to be able to play a 4/4 to keep putting pressure on their opponents. 3 Barrage and 3 Craving Power, of course, in a deck like this just makes so much sense. And then you're using the Darth Vader ECL as a way to close things out. You can also go really aggressive in space with Inferno 4 or Onyx and put on like a Iden Versio as a pilot. Couple Long Pikes and the 3 Shuttle, of course. Sideboard with the 2 Darth Vader, the 3 Chilson as a way to slow down more ground-heavy decks. A couple Legal Authority. It's a nice touch. And the 3 Confiscate to deal with those heavy pilot decks. Or like Darth Vader's especially. Or even Luke Datavault, which is the deck we're going to talk about here in a second. I was surprised we didn't see more Gar Saxon at the top. I thought it would make it a little farther. But I would have thought there would be a little bit more Gar Saxon at the top. But still did well. And this was a great list. And here's the Luke Datavault list that got 48th place. This was just another great list, and I love to see that this Luke pilot did well. I really did like this leader when it came out, and this, you could tell, like, this player has played a ton of Luke. Just look at those first 2 rows, how many 1 and 2 drop spaceships they have, just very consistent. I believe it's probably close to 20, just looking off of that, how many spaceships they have. 18. So 18 turn 1 plays, and then a good amount of 3 drops. And then I like the Poe Dameron and the Resistance Blue Squadron as 4 drops. The Adelphi to push damage. The Chewbacca as a great pilot, of course, against removal decks. And then 1 copy of Home 1. And then he's pushing damage and doing cool things with Hotshot Maneuver and Stay on Target. And then also the free pilot of R2-D2, of course. And then the Luke flip, you're targeting things like Red 5 and Sabine to be able to push even more damage with Luke's ability as a leader. So just really cool to see a pilot deck do so well. I was really rooting for this deck. I was hoping it would make like top 16. A couple salvage was nice. And I liked the Bounty Hunter's Quarry also. That was a really cool addition to be able to squeeze it in like on turn 2 alongside your spaceships. And like you ping things, like for example, you ping with Gray Squadron, attack in with that fighter, put the Bounty Hunter's Quarry on that unit, and then you can ping Luke, and if they have pinged one of their units with Gray Squadron because they didn't want to take additional damage, then you're able to get additional unit with Bounty Hunter's Quarry. So really cool idea there. Eager Escort, I would imagine, is to bring in against like a Darth Vader yellow deck, a deck that has more space units than you. Kit fits those. Ether Sprite, that was a card that I thought we were going to see a lot more of in the sideboards for people, just as a way, especially in a lot of these hero decks, as a way to like deal with Kylo decks and just kind of delete all their upgrades right away when they flip. But he has one in the sideboard, I would imagine, for that matchup. But I would imagine that's a card we see more of now that Kylo is going to have a lot more popularity going forward. But overall, just a great list by Sir Toast-a-Lot. Next was the Yoda Red Force deck. This one was by Jim Steele. I really, really liked this list. I thought this list was so creative. I loved that they were using out of aspect cards with the 3 Force chokes, the 3 count Dooku, because the exploit ability, it actually makes Dooku like not that bad. If you let's say you kill a Night Sister and a Yoda, right? Which both of those have when defeated abilities that let you draw cards. So you draw 2 cards, and you can do that for 6 resources out of aspect because of the exploit ability. So you're then able to do like what is it for their power? So you're able to do 4 damage to units on the board and get a Dooku as 6/6 on board. So it's really, really cool playing this like control style of Yoda. They got 67th place. So, I mean, that 67 out of 2,000 is amazing. So, I mean, this is such a great list, using the Ray in combination with Yoda's ability so that you can just cycle the Ray over and over again for turn and do 2 damage to a unit and 2 damage to a base. Just do that over and over again once you find the Ray, which is amazing. And then playing 3 Krayt Dragons, the 3 Lukes and the 3 Anakins. So, such a cool list. I would imagine we see more Yoda Red going forward as well. And then again, they're playing the 3 Bombing Run in the side. This is a deck I can't wait to try out. It looks like so much fun. And then the Parliamentarian is going to be, a sideboarded card, I think, like I said, for all these Kylo decks. Anticipating that Kylo was going to be played a lot this weekend. And then last on the list was this awesome Chancellor Blue Force deck that I saw. And I got to see this player play this on live stream. They finished 68th. Again, 68 out of 2,000 is amazing. I love to see that this deck did so well, and it was such a creative build using the Force synergy with the early Anakins, the Yaddles, the Youngling Padawan, and the Yodas. And then I love that they were using like Darth Tyrannus and Talzin's Assassin to be able to benefit from those cards when the Force is online. 3 Frozen and Carbonite, he made some really cool plays with that. And then a lot of good removal, 3 Power, 3 Shatter, 3 No Glory, 3 Laser Blast. So definitely more of a control style build. And then you're using like your 3 Anakins, your 3 Lukes as a way as pieces of removal. Of course, Anakin becomes online. No Sheehan Flurry, but still being able to get -3/-3 twice with Anakin. And then just 1 copy of Snoke, and then 1 copy of Avenger in the main. In the sideboard, he has 3 Bamboozle for like pilot decks. The 2 Restock, I would imagine, for ways to deal with Kylo, as well as like control matchups. 3 Jedi Lightsaber, I would imagine, for more aggressive opponents, to use that on your Force units to be able to take out their units on the ground. And then 1 copy of Vigilance as a way to gain life. But I just thought this was another really creative list. Can't wait to try this one. This one looks like so much fun. But I loved what I saw from this tournament. I love that it wasn't just a bunch of Han2 Blue. I love that deck didn't even win after all the hype that it got. It still represented, a quarter of the top 8, but a quarter of the top 8 is healthy. This game is in such a healthy spot, and it just shows how much creativity there is in this game, and then how much you as a pilot matters in the decks that you play, and the ability for a deck to go really far with some of these really creative lists, and just seeing how incredible some of these players are, and that you can take a leader that you've played for a long time and have just really honed in on that list. Again, I've said that so many times, but it's just what I love about this game, that it's not so much about just top decking the right cards or just getting these really amazing cards in your hand right away, and then you just win the game and the game's over before it even started. Like, this game is just such a healthy, well-balanced game where, it's about the player's ability more than anything. And then the deck building is so creative. I love that you can play out of aspect cards, like in this deck in particular, but this Yoda deck right here with like all these out of aspect force chokes and Count Dooku's. I mean, this is just such an incredible list. And I can't wait to see like how things shape up in the next month or two, like what kind of creativity we see. Um, the Luke Skywalker deck was a deck that just many people had written off, maybe talked about it a little bit, but just to see this deck do so well in such a big tournament was awesome. Again, Gar Saxon, just a great leader. Great to see ECL, Gar Saxon being relevant again. Iden, we have not talked about Iden that much lately, but it was really nice to see this list too. But yeah, I just really liked watching this tournament. I really enjoyed it. I hope, like I said, you should definitely check out the live gameplay whenever you get a chance if you weren't able to this weekend. Just watch like day 2 and day 3 in particular, I think, just to kind of see some of these really amazing players and the lines of play that they had. Like there were some really good games, especially today. Like there were some great games. I mean, I watched most of today, and there were so many great games. So many games that just came down to like one play or like one damage even sometimes. So just an awesome, awesome tournament to watch. But I would love to hear what you guys thought were some really interesting decks from this past weekend. Maybe some ones that I missed from stream or some ones that you noticed on Melee. But I would love to hear what you guys thought were interesting decks. But as always, y'all have a good one and peace out.